Episode 150 is here of the past podcast about sports and stuff. I'm your host, BT. Hope everyone has had a productive week. We did just surpass President's Day, so if you celebrate or acknowledge that celebration, kudos to you. I am looking and I realized initially that there were a lot of topics to discuss, but then in really chewing and breaking down the stories, there was a lot of information and a lot of things that happened this weekend. Predominantly, obviously, with sports. If you may or may not be aware, the All Star weekend has come and gone. Quite a lot to discuss with that. Um, we'll be definitely talking about what went on with that process. Give a little bit of an NBA update as well as talk about some new things coming up in the tech world. And as usual, we always like to give you the ass of the week. So we're not gonna waste a whole lot of time. We're gonna get right into it. As always, the episodes are uploaded each week to Spreaker.com. If you're looking to start off with podcasting, I tell everyone all the time, you find what works for you. A lot of people have used Blueberry. Some people have used, they use Libsyn as well. I personally found Spreaker to kind of be my best home, and I haven't looked back. So it's kind of my place, of my go-to when it comes to recording and setting up shows. And also the voice you are hearing is being recorded using a Blue Yeti microphone. If you've seen the picture in most of my podcast photos, shout out to Chris Rocks, by the way, photography. She definitely came through in the clutch with that. So I may be looking to do some photography, another set of photos soon. But the Blue Yeti microphone was in most of those pictures to kind of get that exposure of my mic and what my brand is all about. So we're gonna, as we always do each week, and as I always like to share, I do want to make everyone aware. I share this number each week. We're going to start off with this number each week. 1-800-799-SAFE. Again, that's 1-800-799-SAFE. If you are looking to get help or get assistance, if you're in a crisis or something goes on, I definitely want to get that number a call. I would, I'm not just saying it just because it's definitely not something to treat lightly when it comes to domestic violence. As I've shared or addressed on various occasions during the show, I've lost someone due to domestic violence, and it's definitely not the best experience in the world. So segueing from, talking about that, as I, want to make sure I get her business out there. If you are in the Richmond area and you are looking for a good place to eat and you are on the go, I definitely would recommend A Taste of Heaven RVA. Websites are listed in the show notes, and the links are there, obviously, to if you want to look at what types of foods she has. You can definitely give her a call. Her name's Renetta Winston. Her number is 804-266-2509. They're located at Virginia Center Commons Mall, in the food court. If you just look for A Taste of Heaven, you'll definitely find everything set up, and she'll get you right. So if you go there, tell her Brian sent you, and she might hook you up. But she'll hook you up regardless, because her food is definitely spot on. Like, I'm not just saying that just because, but it definitely is the true definition of good food. Going into All-Star Weekend, there's a lot, and I'll go ahead and forewarn everyone now. This may take up majority of the podcast because there's a lot of activities that went down. A lot of things went on during the All-Star Weekend, highs and lows. First and foremost, now I don't have any of this. A lot of information I'm going to share was not listed, but it's just generic discussion. First and foremost, we potentially had an infamous LeVar of the week be done, as far as LeVar stating that Lonzo would be doing signing autographs. He actually performed his infamous rap song as usual, so we were expected to get that experience. I mean, why expect anything less, especially with the All-Star game being located in LA. So I'm not surprised by that at all. The first game we'll get into is the celebrity All-Star game. We always know you're gonna see someone who steps up and shows out that you wouldn't expect. I expected this, but I didn't expect it, and I'll read the story about it, and then we'll get into the kind of overall stories related to it. First and foremost, it was Team Clippers against Team Lakers. Team Clippers won 75-66. MVP of the game was Quavo from the group Migos. To kind of give an overview, there was no Kevin Hart at this year's Celebrity All-Star Game, which meant no short jokes or on-court hijinks or claims that the MVP wound up in the wrong hands. But there was enough surprisingly solid play from a handful of celebrities to give the game a reasonable entertainment value, mainly from Quavo and Andre Degrassi. Both combined to give the Clippers a 75-66 victory over Team Lakers. Quavo is one-third of the rap group Migos, and interestingly, he was a football player in high school. His athletic skills were very apparent Friday, though, and he finished with a game-high 19 points. He was helped by Degrassi, the Olympic sprinter and possible heir apparent to Usain Bolt. Degrassi, who had 17 points, played basketball in high school in Toronto until one of the coaches noticed his speed. Degrassi switched sports and has so far won 3 Olympic sprint medals. Team Lakers wasn't without a heavyweight, mainly Rachel D'Amata, the diminutive NBA 2K host who played at Old Dominion. She scored 17 points, mainly on long-range jumpers, although another of her highlights was being knocked to the floor by Quavo. It was all in good fun, even without Hart, whose funny presence was replaced by Jamie Foxx, who won the crowd with his antics, but like Hart, came up short when he went scoreless. So I'm going to chew this, and I know it's like, I won't say it was a rush story of addressing it, but it was, it kind of was, the celebrity game is kind of like the icebreaker of the All-Star weekend. You get all the, top celebrities who, some do play basketball, some you'll never see in a basketball court anytime soon. You get a couple of vets who have been out the league for a while, a.k.a. Nate Robinson, Tracy McGrady, Jason Williams. They all come back and get back into the game. As I mentioned before, Quavo was the MVP. It was different because there wasn't a Kevin Hart presence involved, but it still turned out to be a pretty good showing for the game. It had a little bit more competition to it, which is a good thing. One thing that was noticed, and I don't know if there were many shot during the game, but there was an added line called the 4-point shot. It was strictly at the top of the key. Pretty much, you couldn't do a rule like this during the NBA All-Star game because Steph Curry would just stand there and just shoot threes with his eyes closed. But they did have a 4-point shot. There was a highlight shown where Nate Robinson did hit a 4-point shot during the game. So those are the main things to kind of take away from the celebrity match. If I'm put in a position to rate it or rank it, I'd probably give it about I'd probably say a 6. It wasn't halfway bad, but it wasn't like, ooh, like we really are gonna enjoy this game. So following, of course, this is all on Friday night. Following the celebrity game is kind of the rising stars. Now, before I continue, I do want to make everyone aware, because this is the infamous trend. Each game that's played has its sponsor. Of course, the celebrity game is sponsored by Ruffles. The Rising Stars is sponsored by Mountain Dew Kickstart, and in the Mountain Dew Kickstart Rising Stars game, you mainly had Bogdanovich and Buddy Hield be the stars of the game, both playing for Sacramento. They were able to show out pretty well for Team World. Based on the stats, we'll go into this matchup. In the NBA showcase of young talent, it's been USA versus the World for the last 4 years. And Team World has a 3-1 edge over Team USA after the international squad rolled in the Mountain Dew Kickstart Rising Stars game on Friday, shooting 59% and winning all four quarters on its way to a 155-124 victory over the Americans. Team World starting lineup included All-Star Joel Embiid, Kia Rookie of the Year candidate Ben Simmons, and 2017 Rising Stars MVP Jamal Murray. And the third quarter spin move by Embiid was the highlight of the night, but it was the bench that gave Team World separation on multiple occasions Friday. That bench was led by Sacramento Kings rookie Bogdan Bogdanovic, who scored 26 points. He made 7 of his 13 three-point attempts and dished out 6 assists. Bogdanovic is 25, and he was named the MVP of the match. The World took control with a 9-0 run near the end of the first quarter. After the USA closed to within 4 early in the second, a 16-5 World run proved to be the stretch that decided the game. Team World led by 19 points at the half, by 30 in the third quarter, and by as many as 39 in the fourth. It outscored Team USA 69-33 from beyond the arc. And it won't really give too much if you read the story, the only other factor to add to that was the Celtics and Team USA's Jaylen Brown led all scorers with 35 points on 14-21 shooting, highlighted by a pair of through-the-legs dunks in the fourth quarter. Side note, I won't even say side note, but just general minutia, if you want to call it that. I will say that I like the jersey concept that they went with for the game. For the World team on the jersey, it said World, but it was mimicking the Buffalo Clippers jerseys that they had back in the day. And for the Lakers, or for the USA team, they had the Minneapolis Lakers jersey, which was the powder blue jersey, which a lot of people actually liked that jersey. And I will be the first to admit, I enjoyed that jersey, when Kobe was playing in the NBA, because that was kind of like a staple or a signature jersey that was out there at one point. But for the most part, it was all Team World from the get-go. A lot of the rising stars from Team USA, Jason Tatum, Dennis Smith, Jaylen Brown. I mean, they played, but it was more, you just had too many good players. The better side of the game went the way it did. So it's not anything to be surprised by or overwhelmed / shocked by. But that's kind of how that all went down. So that's all of the events that happened on on Friday night. Push forward to Saturday. Saturday is kind of the eruption leading more into the main event, the All-Star game itself. The first event, which I'm going to talk about and have a lot of fun with this. And before I continue, because I want to point this out, if you may or may not have noticed a trend other than obviously with the celebrity game, you'll see that a lot of players or individuals who won different events have been on teams that haven't had the best records. We'll get into that as well after once we get into the NBA standings. But the skills challenge sponsored by Taco Bell showed off the skills of Spencer Dinwiddie from the Brooklyn Nets was the winner for that. So I'll give everyone a perspective, because for the celebrity game and for the the rising stars, there's not really much to it other than you play, you call it a day, and that's it. With the skills challenge, it's a little different. So what happens is you have a course. It's basically a basketball course, and you reach in for the ball. They'll say ready, set, go. You'll get the ball. You have to go around these figures who look like Jerry West's logo or the NBA logo. Then you'll take the ball, get to the passing stage where you have to do a chest pass, or you can do a bounce pass. You just have to pass it through the ring. Once it goes through, then you'll get another basketball. You'll run all the way you're sprinting towards the opposite basket that you just started at with the basketball. That'll be like it's a set of basketballs. You just go to the basket, shoot a layup. Then you come back down and you have to make a 3-pointer. Now, what makes this a more unique instance or a unique scenario is it's not just these individuals competing, it's also them competing with having it split up with big men versus the guards. One year, I believe, the big factor was DeMarcus Cousins making his presence known. So to kind of give you like I said, that's kind of the lead up of how it all goes. But we'll talk about the actual event itself. In the third year of the guards versus the bigs in the Taco Bell Skills Challenge, the guards finally won, but it was a big guard that did it. The Brooklyn Nets 6'6" point guard Spencer Dinwiddie defeated the Chicago Bulls' Lauri Markkanen in the final round to take home the Skills Challenge trophy. Skills Challenge is about two things: the chest pass and the top of the key 3-pointer. And I might have mentioned bounce pass, but it's chest pass. Connect the chest pass and you're out to an early lead. But if you can't make the 3, your opponent can come from behind. Dinwiddie connected on his first chest pass to get out to a big lead on Markkanen. He missed his first 3-point attempt, but still had plenty of time and sunk his second before Markkanen could even make it to the line. That's one of the marks of my game, being able to affect the game in multiple ways, whether it be passing, defending, or scoring, Dinwiddie said afterward. Good thing they didn't have a rebounding challenge, I guess, in this, or I wouldn't have won it. In the semifinals, Dinwiddie eliminated Nuggets Jamal Murray, who had an early lead but missed the first 3-point attempt. Dinwiddie was right behind him and sunk his first 3 to advance to the final. Markkanen eliminated the Sixers' Joel Embiid in what was an even matchup until the 3-point shot, which Markkanen made on his first attempt. In the first round, Dinwiddie came from behind, sunk his 3-pointer to beat Buddy Hield, who missed the first 2 attempts. Murray took an early lead by connecting on his first chest pass and didn't give up, making his 3-point attempt before Clippers Lou Williams could attempt his first. Why am I not seeing everything? Sorry, y'all. It's like when things happen, man. My fault. I should be more prepared, but obviously life won't let me be great. Embiid eliminated Celtics Al Horford, who had an early lead, but missed his first three-point attempts, while Markkanen eliminated the Pistons' Andre Drummond by completing his chest pass first and knocking down his first jumper. The Knicks' Kristaps Porzingis was unable to defend his title, having torn his ACL early this month. One part of the series that was not addressed is, and they don't talk about it in this snippet, is Embiid went against Markkanen, and he got to the passing part, and he threw a pass. It didn't go through the ring, but then he took a basketball and just threw it at the net or whatever, and then just kept going like nobody was gonna notice it. So he did that, and it was sad because even in doing that, he still ended up losing. But it was a sight because they did talk about it. Andre Drummond shooting 3-pointers was very interesting. I'll put it at that. Especially with him being a big man who's not known. He's not. That's a discomforting thing for him, but it's understandable why, because of him being he's a true big man. But in the long haul, Spencer Dinwiddie was the winner, and he was able to beat Luke Markkanen to earn his first Skills Challenge championship. Now we're going to get into what I personally prefer of the events on Saturday, and that is the not the dunk contest, the JBL 3-point contest. And I don't like it strictly because it's JBL. It's weird of a contradiction. Has led to take you away from the podcast for a minute and just kind of put you in the offline Brian for a moment. I love anytime I'm wearing music or listening to music, earbuds wise, I'm a Beats guy. I can't help it. I know they're expensive, but I get good sound quality from listening to Beats headphones. But what's ironic is speakers at home sound systems. If I was to get a dream sound system, if I could buy the boombox, the JBL boombox would be everything to me right now. But I digress. So JBL is the sponsor for the 3-point contest. And as the trend has continued, the reigning champion did not do as well as expected. Eric Gordon was the defending champion from the 3-point shootout. He didn't make it out the first round. The shooters who were involved were it was Eric Gordon, Tobias Harris, Klay Thompson, Devin Booker. I should know the list, but instead of me blindly throwing the list, I'm just going to talk about the actual 3-point shootout itself, and then we'll kind of chop it up about it. Devin Booker has established himself as one of the game's great shooters, and confirmation came Saturday during a record run at the JBL 3-point contest. The Suns guard amassed an event record 28 points in the final round. Booker boosted his total by draining 4 out of 5 shots from his money ball rack. He also hit all the money balls in his other 4 racks. Overall, Booker hit 20 of 25 shots to edge former champ Klay Thompson, who took second with 25 points. Our season hasn't been too bright, so this is kind of a big deal back home, Booker said. Hopefully I can come back and win again. When I came out of college, I was just considered a shooter, but now I consider myself an elite shooter. That's strong words. I have a lot of respect for what guys like Larry Bird and Craig Hodges did in this contest. I'm just glad my name can be mentioned with those guys. The defending champ, Eric Gordon of the Rockets, didn't escape the first round. Devin caught fire, and that's a tough number to beat. Gordon said, I guess I'll step up in the second half of the year and make my 3-pointers then. All right, a couple of things. Well, not really. I won't say a couple of things, but just some key points that stood out for me. The 3-point shootout has changed their format over the last few years for good reason. And what they do now is, instead of you doing, because normally when they would have the 3-point shootout, it was a simple format. You had 4 regular balls at each rack, and then the money ball was the last shot on each rack. Well, times have changed, and now there's a rule now they've implemented it as you have 1 rack that you can get. So to put numbers into perspective, if you were to play all 5 racks with 4 1-point shots and 1 2-point shot, the maximum you would be able to get is 30 because it's 6 per rack. But what they've done now is the maximum that you can get is 34, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Your 4 regular racks have 4 1-point shots and 1 money ball. You add those together, that's 6. So those 4 racks together is 24. You have 1 rack that is strictly a money ball rack, and that's 10 points by itself. What players tend to do, 24 plus 10, 34. Don't want to skip that part. What players tend to do is they take their money rack and set it up at wherever their favorite spot is on the court. Sometimes it could be your first rack. Sometimes it could be your last rack. And you also have the option to go, if you want to go clockwise or if you want to go counterclockwise, you're given that option. So they have those luxuries and amenities as being shooters. You also take into account that your shootings, like with 3-point shooting, and I'm speaking on this from just general know-how with basketball. Shooting a 3-pointer in a consistent rhythm is something that you have to just naturally get used to doing. Because when I used to play basketball on a consistent basis, it was, okay, I know to catch the ball, get the ball from, whichever side, get into my form, and I just had that kind of a form as long as I was playing. It's no different here. The difference is the rack, you're getting the ball from a rack that doesn't move. It's not being passed to you, it's you putting it into your comfort zone. So you may want to pick the ball, you may want to be on the right side of the rack, pick it up from left to right, shoot. You could be on the right, you could be to the left of the rack, pick it up from the right side, catch and shoot. I know that's like a lot of TMI. A lot of y'all probably like, I don't understand what none of that means. I would have to see it, and I get it. So If you have not seen or may not be aware, the videos are on in the show notes as far as how the format of the 3-point shootout is played. One thing I do want to address too, and you're seeing the evolution of sports now. With basketball, we used to get, like we would see shots. If they made a shot, they missed a shot, whatever, no big deal. Now the way it's set up, you can basically see when the player shoots the ball, exactly where the ball goes. So if they shoot it short, they have technology set up within the rim to catch the angle of where the ball lands. It's showing you how technology is getting smarter, or how we've gotten smarter with what we have. They're showing this off in the 3-point shootout, but I guarantee you it's going to be used or be something beneficial for future reference of some sort. Now, whether they're able to implement something into the basketball to do that, I'm not sure. But I will say this. For those judgment plays or figuring out whether a shot was goaltended or even down to basket interference, this can be a useful technology that we could see in the future. So don't be surprised. The All-Star game is used sometimes to test things out. Now, I'm not sure if they did this at the time, but I feel like it was key. There was a point when the NBA decided to bring out a basketball that just was not suitable for the NBA. Plain and simple. There's no pretty or cute way to put it. They tried it, they used it, it didn't work. It is what it is, things happen. But due to that type of experience and experiment, they learned, okay, we're not doing this basketball again. They got rid of it. We'll now go into what others may consider to be the highlight. I consider it the low light, and I'll kind of give a few points or statements about this event. So the final event for Saturday is the Verizon Slam Dunk competition. So the winner of the competition was Donovan Mitchell. Runner-up was Larry Nance Jr. I'm going to go into a lot. I'm going to try to give as much as I can related to this event. Donovan Mitchell's rookie season just keeps getting better. And that's officially 2018 Verizon Slam Dunk champion Donovan Mitchell of the surging Utah Jazz, who claimed the crown on Friends, Family, and Throwback All-Star Saturday night at Staples Center. Mitchell needed at least a 47 on his final dunk in the championship round to defeat Larry Nance Jr. of the Cleveland Cavaliers and secured a 48 for the win. Both players employed family members to aid their respective causes. Mitchell brought up his little sister along with comedian Kevin Hart and his son for his second dunk in the first round. Nance Jr. used his father's old uniform and dunked from Nance Sr.'s win in the inaugural slam dunk contest in '84, and later had his father toss an alley-oop that he windmilled on his first dunk in the final round. But Mitchell closed the contest with an ode to the Verizon Slam Dunk legend and the oldest player in the NBA, Vince Carter, stripping off his Jazz jersey to don Carter's old Toronto Raptors number 15. He finished a reverse 360 Carter used to win the 2000 Verizon Slam Dunk contest in Oakland. Mitchell earned a 50 on his first dunk in the final round, throwing the ball off the glass to himself for what has become his signature dunk early on in his rookie season. He clipped Nance Jr. 98-96 in the final round. Nance Jr. finished his night with a 50 of his own, tossing the ball off the glass as he soared towards the basket and jamming it home. Mitchell, the rookie sensation who leads the Jazz, winners of 11 straight games, and all rookies in scoring, was a late addition to the competition, replacing 2016 dunk runner-up Aaron Gordon, who had to withdraw due to injury. Nance Jr. had the crowd on his side just a little over a week before being traded to hometown Cleveland from Los Angeles. Indiana Pacers star Victor Oladipo and Dallas Mavericks rookie point guard Dennis Smith Jr. were eliminated after the first round. Smith, however, did earn the only other 50 of the competition, nailing a between the legs 360 reverse on his second dunk to impress of the first round to impress the judges. Hall of Fame dunk legend Julius Erving and the star-studded but somewhat unorthodox panel of judges, a group that included former WNBA superstar and Hall of Famer Lisa Leslie, an LA native Hollywood superstars Chris Rock, I don't know why I can't read, and Mark Wahlberg, and a superstar producer DJ Khaled. 27 Verizon slam dunk champion Glenn Robinson III of Indiana is working his way back from ankle surgery and was not able to defend his title. All right. This was mentioned, but I'll address it again. Larry Nance, I give credit to because he did pay homage or he paid homage to his father as far as one of the dunks that he did. I will give him a pass for that any day. I also did see Dennis Smith show his hops, especially in my eyes being one of the shorter out of the group, to be able to pull off some of the dunks that he did. It was tough scoring, but it's also like you have to factor in who you have scoring because a lot of them are big names in what they do, but a lot of them may or may not have the basketball eye to see what a good dunk may or may not be considered as, if that makes sense. It was like I said, it wasn't the worst dunk contest, but it wasn't a ooh and ah like standout dunk contest in my opinion. But you can never go into the dunk contest looking for perfection first and foremost. Second of all, and most importantly, you also have to remember it's not that the dunk contest is stale. Let me state that and put emphasis to that. I don't feel as though the dunk contest is stale. What I do feel is it's tough to be creative and do something in a different way compared to what we've already seen other dunkers do. For instance, if it was sponsored by Kia, like the year when Blake Griffin dunked over the car, thanks to him dunking over a car, that's how he got a sponsorship with Kia. The likelihood of us seeing another player dunk over a car is slim to none. If we do, it's going to come down to, how high is the car? Was it really as challenging as it looked? Like things of that nature are going to play into it. Like last year, Aaron Gordon did a creative dunk, which I valued a lot, which was, I think it was the mascot from Orlando. He was on skates spinning in circles, and basically Aaron Gordon just ran up in the midst of him spinning, got the ball. I think he did like a reverse, did a between the legs dunk. It was one dunk he did where he went under both of his legs. You're not going to see that. So, little things like that were the creative factor, but I wasn't going to give, you can't, it's tough to measure with dunk contests, especially with so many dunk contests being done. You're looking at now, we're over 33 years worth of dunk contests, even with different formats and different styles. So that's something to look at when it comes to dunks and things of that nature. Now for the main event. First and foremost, the All-Star Game didn't have a sponsor. If it does, I don't know who it is. But the highlight of the night, or the highlight of the weekend, and the purpose of... So All-Star Weekend has multiple benefits. The biggest benefit for a lot of players is it's a time to just to rest and relax. And you can either enjoy basketball or just enjoy festivities and activities going on at All-Star Weekend. Or you get to rehab and heal up, from whatever injuries that are going on, within your team. I have a story. I'm going to do something a little different this time. I'm not going to read this story A to Z as far as how it all went. I will say Team LeBron won by 3. It wasn't as non-defensive as it usually is. So I'm I'm gonna chew this into different pieces and really decipher the All-Star game. Number one, most All-Star games are known to be very non-defensive or very Ole-ish, to put it nicely. So that means you're going to see a lot of players who are just going to naturally drive and kick, or they may go to the basket or throw the ball off the backboard, things of that sort. If you go back a couple of episodes, we talked about this before, where the All-Star event is mainly the All-Star game was changed to make it a little more competitive, because you didn't want to have it be, okay, we're going to have the East play against the West. Instead, let's let the two best players from each conference, from the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, pick based on the starting five, and then pick based on the bench. And you pick your players and go from there. So that I had no problem with. A lot of people didn't like the drafting part. I think it was fine. I think if we had did West versus East, I think the West would have slaughtered the East. I'm just going to be brutally honest. Could be wrong, but I'm not sure. First half was 70. Most halftime scores are usually in the 80s or 90s. This one was 76 to 78, I believe. It was a 2-point deficit. There was one point where Team LeBron was down by like 13 points. That even with them scoring, they couldn't get back into the game. Defensive stops, and just kind of team unity changed all of that. I don't want to get into this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I didn't see it. But the internet made sure I saw it. So, well, let me backtrack. First, because we didn't get Kevin Hart during the All-Star Celebrity Game, we got him as a host for the All-Star Game. So when he did the hosting, because I know a couple of years ago Drake did the host, and it was it was in Toronto, so it only made sense. They had him do intros, but before he did the intro, it was kind of like his dream of wanting to be a basketball player, and they had him go through the whole little process, and they had a lot of artists perform, which I'm all for that, no problem. Then we went into the introductions, and he gave like little references to each person. Fine with that too. I left because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go get something to eat, even though I knew I was gonna pass out from what I had eaten, but it is what it is. But I got something to eat, and I came back to see if I would, hey, I'm gonna catch the game, whatever. I come back, and the internet went crazy because I forgot or didn't factor in the national anthem. Didn't know who was doing the national anthem. Learned who did the national anthem. Was glad that I did leave. Fergie from Black Eyed Peas tried to do the national anthem. Keyword tried. She tried. I don't know what went on or what went wrong or what happened, but it was not the best performance. And the internet went wild. They went all the way wild. There was no letting up from them on how wild they got about her performance. Because if no one else is going to let you know, the internet's going to let you know. So we get into the game. First couple of plays, there was a lot of defense. There was a lot of competitiveness. You could also see it was a more ironic situation. I mean, it was a more unique circumstance with having Steph Curry play against LeBron James. Steph Curry play against Kevin Durant. Seeing Kyrie and LeBron play together. Also seeing how everyone wanted to know how Westbrook and Durant were going to play together, even though they were picked on the Eastern side or picked on LeBron's side. Like, it's tough because you look at it and assume Team LeBron was East, Team Steph was West, but it really wasn't. The teams were equally balanced out. There's a likelihood, I hope they do it, that they do the draft live next year, depending on who the top two vote getters are. I'm going to get in, I'll jump on this too. Butler and Aldridge, quote unquote, didn't play. LaMarcus Aldridge played for a little bit, but from what I was reading on fantasy stories and just as a whole, he wasn't 100%. So he played and got a couple minutes. I think he got one block, but he really didn't have like a quote unquote stat line that stood out from All-Star Weekend. Jimmy Butler didn't play at all. Jimmy Butler, I think, had the flu or something of that sort. I'm not sure. But it caused a lot of shade to be thrown where Lou Williams looked at it as, well, if you're not going to play, that could have been a spot that someone could actually got in and played. But, things happen. Can't really make changes behind that. Like and I mentioned this before, it got competitive. It had a little bit more pizzazz to it by the third quarter. Most cases, it's usually the fourth quarter when it gets exciting, but third quarter it picked up, which was good. I'm trying to think what else went on. LeBron was chosen as MVP. His stat line spoke for itself. He almost had a triple-double. That for me was surprising because I think he had 29, 11 assists, 10 or 11 assists, and like 8 rebounds. So he was close to getting a triple-double. Closing seconds of the game were very questionable. Curry dribbled himself into a double team, and of all double teams, it was LeBron and Durant. He couldn't find anyone open. It was a point because someone brought it to my attention where Harden was open. Didn't see that play. He passed it to DeRozan, who was in the corner, but he really didn't have a good shot or a good way of getting a play off. Everyone, for some reason, and maybe I need to understand this, and if anyone's listening who can give input to this, by all means, help me to learn. What was the big issue with the jerseys? Because for whatever reason, no one was too fond of them this year, and I personally didn't see anything wrong with them. But the league, well, not the league, but people thought otherwise. Like, I had never seen that much attention placed towards basketball jerseys. First and foremost, it was different because we normally are used to seeing, well, this year with it being a Nike-based league, we would see Nike jerseys, but Jordan brand was part of it. They had them set up where they had the team, like your team logo on the front, number on the back, name on the bottom, I believe. Yes, name was on the bottom. But I didn't see where there was an issue with the jerseys. Like, maybe the issue wasn't as big to me as people made it out to be. And I guess I want to understand from a viewer's perspective, what would you prefer the jerseys to look like, to kind of put it in perspective? Because sometimes people have ideas in their head that they think works, but the idea in your head may not be the idea that you're trying to go for. But I think the black and white was simple, and the black and white was not bad. We also, as fans, have to not be picky because we need to remember we just went through the Christmas break and there were no jerseys at all. Something to think about. So I've given the proper attention and breakdown of the All-Star Weekend. There are a lot of, like I said, each part, if you want to know who went where, what went down, definitely go back and I'll have the timestamps in the show notes. And I'm working on that more and more with shows, like not just throwing you shows and that's it, giving you kind of an idea of where to start listening for certain things that are going on. We now get into, since the season is, oh wow, okay. I'm going to break this story since it just hit, but I'll save it. It'll likely be a tab in the real when we do the official podcast next week. Louisville has lost its NCAA appeal and will become the first men's basketball team to vacate a national championship. So it looks like they just screwed themselves over, and they can thank just sheer stupidity for that. But anywho, since the All-Star break has come and went, and we have a few days of kind of like downtime, we'll go ahead and get into where teams are, who's going to start preparing for next season. And it's ironic that, and I'm addressing this now because it's a coincidence that Mark Cuban is already in contemplation mode of, and he said it very vocally, which surprised me, that he's looking to tank this year. Now, first and foremost, the team is already 18-41. So they're kind of in that boat anywhere where they are in the lower part of they're in the lower ranks to be able to go for a lottery pick next season anyway. And looking at the draft classes coming in, you got some pretty good talent to look forward to. We'll kind of chew it up on both sides and then just have a breakdown. If the playoffs were to start today, which I always, is the best way to describe it or jump into it first. From the Eastern Conference, you'd have Toronto playing Miami, Boston would play Philly, Cleveland would play Milwaukee, and Washington would play Indiana. Washington is in a good position right now because they also are playing without John Wall. So they have an advantage of a disadvantage, if that's a good way to put it. Right now, they're working on building that chemistry and also getting Bradley Beal to get more comfortable in being the alpha. Toronto's regular season is irrelevant because once the playoffs start, that's when the switch has to be turned on. Cleveland's going through the adjustment because they just did all the trades. We talked about that last week. Getting a 2 or 3 seed is not going to be a big deal to them. Boston, I'm going to see how they look because right now Kyrie's playing out his mind. Can I put Kyrie in the conversation of MVP? Absolutely. Tough part is, if you look at the West, James Harden would give him a run for his money. And I feel like this might be the first year James Harden should deserve MVP. Like when I say, let me retract that. When I say deserve MVP, I mean it as this is his time to get the award and not have to compete like intensely with a lot of people because of, whatever is going on this year. Philly is in the 7th spot now. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. It's Philly. I'm not going to say trust the process. Right now, this year has been good because Ben Simmons actually has been playing. No one wants to say it, but I'm going to be the first to come clean. Markelle Fultz is not playing this year. I probably said it in a previous podcast. I'm going to say it for emphasis to reality. Markelle Fultz is not playing this year. The Pacers are proving life without Paul George and all that bad. Miles Turner and Oladipo are playing pretty good. You'll get what you get with them. To look at those who are like on the edge, New York won't make the playoffs. Chicago is preparing for next season. Obviously, Brooklyn is the same. Charlotte may make a fight, but if anything, I can see Kemba leaving next season, depending on how his contract situation works out. Detroit can fight for a seed, but it's going to be a matter of where 5 through 9 goes. Because this is, like I said, it's still you're looking at your teams with about 25 to 30 games remaining, give or take. Going into the Western Conference, like I said, Houston has been on a very quiet yet productive 10-game win streak. Utah they flipped their switch. They're on an 11-game win streak. They're still 10th, but they can make a surge. But it's also going to be a matter of how teams above them do. Minnesota's 4th, which is surprising. One of the younger teams. Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins is a pretty deadly combination. You can tell with them making the decision to get rid of Rubio was the best thing that they could have did. The Lakers will be preparing for next year's draft. Sacramento, Dallas, and Phoenix, same boat. Memphis, it's kind of been, you already could kind of see the breakdown once Mike Conley was out sidelined for the rest of the year. They kind of made it clear and made it obvious that they were gonna go ahead and let that go. New Orleans, I don't see them being 8 for very long. It's going to be a tough spot for Anthony Davis to be in, especially with him being the only big man because you don't have DeMarcus Cousins. Oklahoma City will be fine. Obviously, like I said, 1, 2, and 3, you'll see those move from time to time, but it's going to kind of be consistent. But yeah, that's kind of like my quick yet simple NBA standings overview, because like I said, if the playoffs were to start, if I was put in a position to say who I feel would be in the finals, this might surprise people. It's not. I don't have Cleveland. Even with LeBron, LeBron has been in for the past 25 years. No, but LeBron's been in the finals for quite a while. He's made a streak of that. But I don't feel like this is the year. On the West, I'm sorry, I obviously said not LeBron, but I didn't say who. I won't say Toronto either. I'm going to probably be wild and reckless in saying it, but I feel like Boston could do it this year. If everyone plays at their max potential, even with their big men, Boston can give Cleveland a good run. And I'm saying this early in episode 150. On the West, normally I would take San Antonio, but San Antonio's not really been on the best path. And then number 2, we don't know if Kawhi is going to be 100% by playoffs because it's almost like they've been shelving him too. Golden State kind of controls their own destiny. I don't want to be a fanboy and say Houston, because Houston has to play 100% flawless basketball to even compete with Golden State. And that's kind of like my best shot. Portland can make a run, but Portland won't make. I don't see Portland making a playoff run, only because the West is very top heavy. So those are the tricks and trades and the breakdowns as far as with the NBA standings. Now my favorite series that a lot of people may have heard me talk about, but I always love sharing these because I found when we were doing the podcast last year, I was able to implement them in. So I know it's going to be more fun this year with the league being the way it is. Game of Zones kind of made its introductory debut during the All-Star weekend. If you have not seen an episode of Game of Zones, you'll definitely want to look at this one. I don't want to play it on the podcast. I'll say go listen to it or go look at it. It's a fun video. I'll kind of just give the basis of what was said. Kyrie goes to Boston. Thomas gone to LA. Overview of the NBA leading up to the All-Star break, which is including all the recent trades. So when they did the I won't say mockery, but when they were able to make fun of how Kyrie was making his decision to go to Boston and how it would be Kyrie's going to go to Boston, but you're going to be getting someone that wants to win. So they thought with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas got to Boston. Got to Cleveland. Wasn't really healthy. So it kind of almost nullified the trade, but I think they did what they could to make the trade work because they didn't want Kyrie to come back. it was mainly Kyrie wanted to be alpha, and having two alpha males on one team in the NBA can kind of be challenging. We saw that before with Shaq and Kobe. Then they used the reference the Woj bomb, which basically Wojciechowski will break stories, and he was breaking stories. Like, to me, Woj of basketball with the NBA with stories is like Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen with the NFL. Like, they'll break a story quicker than anybody else even knows that the story happened. And you, as a fan or as a sports person, you appreciate that because you want to get stories as they occur. That's just like with this show. I make sure when I give content, there are a lot of stories that break or a lot of stories that occur, but I don't give the story until I know it's actually happened. So I'll give the added story, and then, like I said, I'll find the article and we'll give it a full breakdown. The NCAA will force Louisville men's basketball team to vacate all of its wins from 2011 to 2015 seasons when ineligible students played in games. So that's kind of a teaser for something coming up next week. All right, this is the segue, the midpoint, the chill stage of the buffering of the sports, jumping into the stuff. So if you're my sports listeners, I appreciate you tuning in. But I do, and if you want to learn about some stuff going on in the tech world, hang around because I do talk about those things as well. A little bit of this one will be a little mixture because I usually have been kind of just avoiding. I've been mainly doing gaming topics for a while, but I'm like, I need to do some actual tech talk, and we have quite a bit of tech talk that has occurred this year. So we'll go ahead and get those stories up and going. So anyone who has owned who's a user of Pandora knows about Pandora Premium. Pandora Premium was primarily OS based. It is now web based as well. So last month, Pandora launched Premium, a $10 per month streaming service available only as an iOS and Android app. Now, nearly a year later, Pandora Premium is available for the web. While it might seem like Pandora is late to the streaming service game, the company already has around 80 million monthly users. And it says it wants to make streaming more approachable for the user it already has. We're really going to be just maniacally focused on what really enhances the experience for everybody. Pandora's CEO Tim Westergren told The Verge in March. There will be power user capabilities. Will video appear on Pandora? That's been on our list for a long time, but it's more about what are the right things to do in what order to make the product better and keep it simple. That's our guiding philosophy. The web version of Pandora Premium will have the same features as the app version, including search results based on your listening history and a song recommendation feature for playlists. I personally like this. You want to be able to use an app or a program to its max potential. I'm gonna tell my personal story, and matter of fact, I won't do that. I'll say this: Pandora has grown a lot, and it's grown for the better, only because it needed to see better in order to do better. If that's a good way to say it. I think Pandora is on the right path with what it's doing. I think because Pandora kind of set the trend for a lot of the other bigger companies who are doing streaming services. They just weren't. They did it their way, and their way still worked. I wouldn't change how Pandora did things though. Like I was a Pandora lover. I still use Pandora from time to time if I'm looking for something different from what Apple Music or Beats One offers. You can never be too diverse when it comes to listening, and that's what I think. Anyone who knows me, knows my Pandora playlists are very all over, but they're all over for good reason because I want to make sure if I got music for this moment, I got music for this moment, stuff like that. There was an iOS bug that was exposed that would crash iPhones and disable access to apps and iMessages. I'm glad I never found out about this because this would have really annoyed me if someone ever had did this to me. Apple had a shockingly bad week of software problems just before the end of 2017, and it looks like 2018 isn't starting so well either. There's a new bug that's been discovered in iOS 11 that lets people send a specific character that will crash an iPhone and block access to the Messages app in iOS and popular apps like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Outlook for iOS, and Gmail. Italian blog Mobile World spotted the bug, and we've tested it successfully on multiple iPhones running iOS 11.2.5 and found it also works on the Mac OS versions of Safari and Messages. Apple plans to fix the problem in an iOS update before the release of iOS 11.3 this spring. The bug itself involves sending an Indian language Telugu character to devices. And Apple's iOS Springboard will crash once the message has been received. Messages will no longer open as the app is trying and failing to load the character, and it appears that the only way to regain access to your iMessages is to have another friend send you a message and try to delete the thread that contained the bad character. We've also tested the bug out on third-party apps like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Gmail, and Outlook for iOS, and found that these apps can become disabled once a message is received. It might be difficult to fix and delete. The Telegram and Skype appear to be unaffected. The public beta version of iOS 11.3 is also unaffected. It appears Apple was made aware of the problem at least 3 days ago and plans to address it in an iOS update soon, which I haven't seen one as of yet. There's a watch update if you, before I continue. If you have an Apple Watch, there's an iOS update that just came out. So if you're an Apple user, definitely want to get that to your watch. This isn't the first time that iOS has crashed due to weird characters, URLs, or even videos. Last month, a single link could freeze an iPhone, but Apple was able to resolve it with the release of 11.2.5. Back in 2015, a tiny string of text disabled iMessage, and a year later, in 2016, a 5-second video crashed iPhones. Apple also experienced issues with an iOS 11 bug in December that crashed iPhones, and the company took the unusual step of issuing a significant iOS update just hours after the bug started occurring. As Apple faces more security issues and software bugs, the company is reportedly focusing on reliability and performance in iOS 12 over new features. Reports suggest that Apple is taking a new approach to iOS updates, allowing engineers to push features to later releases instead of trying to cram them in for big annual updates. Some features have reportedly been pushed back as a result, allowing Apple to address some of the security and reliability issues discovered in both iOS and Mac OS recently. And there was an update to this story that states Apple plans to fix the issue in an update before the iOS 11.3 release this spring. Lot of stuff with this. And this is why, as a phone user, doesn't matter if it's Android or iPhone, if an update is out, make space, get the update. Because your phone will become less vulnerable thanks to getting that potential update that might be able to keep your phone running. And I know I'm saying, like, I know I'm making a joke regarding that, but in all seriousness, security vulnerabilities are one of the biggest battles when it comes to using various devices. And I'm surprised I'm podcasting. I didn't put the filter on today, but it shows up. Just kind of was in go mode. But anyway, like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, why am I not seeing my... Okay, anyway. I digress. I am glad that they're catching these updates or catching these bugs as they occur. It just sucks that it happens, and before you can turn around, once somebody finds out, then it's, oh, let me go ahead and mess this person's phone up by doing this. So you have that side of it as well to deal with. And anyone who knows me knows, I don't mind, jokes and fun, but there's a line for me, and that's kind of the best way to put it. Like I said, at least they're able to say that, hey, we messed up and we shouldn't have done this, or it's something that we're aware of and we're getting it fixed. Today's artist spotlight is a little different, but not really, because I have been a fan of her music for quite a while, and I really was uncertain of. I don't know. I'm prolonging this part of it, but I'm just kind of addressing it as the need fits. She's part of the neo soul flow, and it's a neo soul flow that that a lot of artists have been waiting. I mean, a lot of listeners have been waiting for. So today's artist spotlight is none other than Goapele. And I'm probably going to pronounce it. It's either Goapele or Goapele. I'll say Goapele. Born Goapele Molabanye in Oakland, California, this singer grew up in a socially conscious and politically active family. Her mother married South African political exile Douglas Mohalbane while studying in Nairobi, Kenya. At an early age, Goapele attended the Berkeley Arts Magnet School, where she led a preteen peer support group. She also became involved in various groups and organizations that combated racism and sexism. It would be these extroverted activities that assisted her singing career, as she would also sing at community functions. In high school, Goapele sang in the Oakland Youth Choir and became part of a semi-professional music group called Vocal Motion. Upon high school graduation, she attended the Berklee School of Music in Boston, where she studied music theory. She also began developing her songwriting skills during her post-secondary education. In the summer of 2001, Goapele was signed to Skyblaze Recordings and completed her debut album. After finishing the record, she toured North America with Spearhead. She returned to the studio in 2002 to begin work on her second record. Pretty short story and pretty, I'm not going to say basic, but it's kind of a main overview of Goapele in as far as like her career and how I got started. I chose her as an artist because a lot of times there are artists who are big or famous or known that just don't get the attention. And I say this a lot of times on different episodes, but she was one of them. She still is one of them. If you think back to when she released the song Closer, you will understand why it's strange, but it's reality when it comes to music. Why artists like her aren't heard as consistently, I guess, is the best way to put it. But she made her mark on music by far. And I won't take anything away from that whatsoever. And that's kind of my simplest way to segue into what is strangely considered Ass of the Week, but it's Ass of the Week nonetheless. And we're just going to chop on into it and figure out what happened. So the title of this story is, when my computer wants to act right, Arizona cheerleader ejected for yelling into megaphone during free throws. And this, by the way, is a male cheerleader. Don't have an issue with, and it doesn't matter to state this. Cheerleading is cheerleading, whether you're male or female, especially if you're getting a scholarship for doing it. A University of Arizona cheerleader was ejected for heckling an Arizona State player during Thursday night's Pac-12 game in Tempe. Arizona State guard Remy Martin was at the free throw line in the second half when the cheerleaders' antics caught the attention of longtime Pac-12 official Randy McCall. McCall stared down the cheerleader just before the cheerleader said, "Not today, Remy," a source told ESPN. Video confirmed what was said. Another source told ESPN that McCall then walked over to the scorer's table and said, "This guy needs to get out of here," without offering additional explanation. He was yelling, using the megaphone to call out people by name, which is not acceptable, McCall said, according to the Arizona Republic. And he was asked to please stop, and he chose not to. This is where the ass of the week part comes in. According to Rule 10, Article 8 of the official referee handbook, cheerleaders shall not commit an unsportsmanlike act such as using musical instruments, amplified music, or artificial noisemakers while the game is in progress, except timeouts and intermissions. The rule also states that such behavior could result in an ejection if deemed extreme or excessive. Arizona did go on to win 77-70. Did that help? No. So I'm going to use this as my little ending time, but I'm also going to talk about this. Well, I'm going to talk about this story, but I'm also going to kind of bring up a couple things. There are rules and there are, how did we get here? This kind of almost equates to a how did we get here, only because it shouldn't seem like such an extreme issue, but obviously it is. Now, has this occurred at other games? I wouldn't be surprised if it has. What made this such an extreme issue? I'm still trying to figure it out. I've seen basketball games played for years, and maybe I'm just not watching the right games, or maybe I just won't paying attention. But I could have sworn I've seen people yell and scream at players when they're at the free throw line or during the game. Now, if the issue is that he's using a device, then I can see where you're going. But I'm giving answer of the week for this because there are so many strange and random rules involved with sports that we just don't know about, that you really would have to be part of that sport or that event to really know that that's quote unquote considered to be a rule. I'm not going to give a tab to this second ass of the week, but I'm going to talk about it. And before I continue, I'm going to go ahead and let you all know that this is going to be a very graphical or detailed discussion that we're going to talk about. If any of you remember back in, I believe it was 1999, probably, I want to say 1999, right? It was either 98 or 99. Near that time, there was a top wide receiver in the NFL who played for the Carolina Panthers named Ray Caruth. At the time, he decided to, in his best interest, put together a setup to kill his wife, but also kill the baby. I'm sorry. I'm taking a moment because I need to really, because like I said, this story I don't have in front of me, but I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of it, and then I'm gonna kind of get into where things are now with this story. Obviously, the wife died. Her son, or their son, however, lived. He's currently living with cerebral palsy, and I have a friend of mine who personally has that, and she's she's a little older than I am, and she handles it. But what makes this story tough to address is he's up for release in October of this year. Now the other two men who were involved, because what he basically did was he hired a hitman to do this. The hitman, I think, got 40 years. The driver got time. I think he just got released. He got released a couple years ago. Karuf, was given time, and now he writes a 15-page document, and in it, he's wanting to state why he feels he should be taking care of his son, who he wanted to kill, by the way. And I read the article. The ESPN article I found was it was simple and it gave the story. But what was tough about it is, why are you trying to present or make yourself be presented as having remorse when you don't? There's one part of it where he states, he addresses that he feels bad, that he wants to be in his child's life. He wants his mom to be in his child's life. Things of that nature. My first question that popped in my head was, if you really wanted her to be in his life, why would you kill her? I think that's my headspace I'm in with the whole story. I would believe how genuine you were with the whole thing if it was really from the heart, but I don't feel like it is. I'm gonna get the story because I don't want to just start talking about what went on without you all getting a good idea of what happened. Give me a second. This is going to be the closeout for the show, by the way, because he's definitely a shoo-in for ass of the week by far. All right. Former Carolina Panthers wide receiver Ray Caruth, who has spent the past 17 years in a North Carolina prison for a conspiracy to murder his pregnant girlfriend, opened up for the first time in a handwritten letter to the victim's mother. Caruth wrote a 15-page letter to Sandra Adams, the mother of Sharika Adams, that was sent to Charlotte television station WBTV. He also spoke at length by phone with the station about the letter, accepting responsibility for the 1999 conspiracy to murder Sharika Adams, and expressing interest in gaining custody of their son. I'm apologizing for the loss of her daughter. I'm apologizing for the impairment of my son, Caruth told WBTV. I feel responsible for everything that happened, and I just want her to know that I truly am sorry for everything. Caruth is scheduled to be released from Sampson Correctional Institution in Clinton, North Carolina on October the 22nd. He was sentenced to 18 to 24 years in 2001 after being found guilty of hiring Van Brett, Watkins, and Michael Kennedy to murder Adams. Watkins, who shot Adams multiple times, was sentenced to a minimum of 40 years. Kennedy, who drove the car, was released in 2011. Adams died a month after the shooting. Her son, Chancellor Lee Adams, was born prematurely and has battled the challenges that come from cerebral palsy, which was the result of of his traumatic birth after the shooting. Sandra Adams has raised Chancellor, now 18. In the past interviews with the Charlotte Observer, she has expressed that she would like to be present the day Karrueche is released. Karrueche, who did not testify at his trial, said he wants custody of Chancellor when he is released. I should be raising my son. Can't do that if you're in jail. His mother should be raising her son. She can't do that because she's no longer here. Karrueche said. I'm adding things in there, by the way. Miss Adams should not be doing this, and I want that responsibility back. But she's been doing it while you were in jail. I feel like he might not ever have his mother in his life, but he could still have me, and I could still make a difference. And I don't think that's anyone's responsibility when I'm still here. Sandra Adams told the Observer on Monday that she would not relinquish custody of Chancellor to Karrueche, which I don't blame her. I've forgiven Ray already, but to have any type of relationship with him, there does have to be some repentance, Adams told the newspaper. And I think this opens the door, but I can definitely say he's not ever going to have custody of Chancellor. Chancellor will be raised either by me or after I'm gone by someone else who loves him and who knows him. He will never be raised by a stranger, someone he doesn't know and who tried to kill him. That's the bottom line. In the letter, Karrueche wrote that he has long accepted my lot as a social pariah. He said in an introduction to the letter, which he began with, "To whom it may concern," that the purpose of the letter was to challenge allegations made by Sandra Adams on the truthfulness of the statements she's made about me. Karrueche referred to several quote-unquote lies he claimed Adams made, beginning with saying he never apologized for what happened. He noted that he apologized on several occasions in correspondence from prison. Karrueche also accused Adams of creating a false impression of his relationship with her daughter. He said, outside of a physical relationship, me and your daughter were practically strangers. Karrueche also challenged that his motive for having Sharika Adams killed was to avoid having to pay child support, noting child support never was mentioned as motive during the trial. He said the motive was more to do with Sharika being unwilling to get an abortion. In the letter, Karrueche said he wishes he could go back to 1999 and do things differently. If I could change anything, I'd change the whole situation. His mother would still be here, and I wouldn't be where I'm at. So that's what I'd want to change. I want the incident to never have happened at all. Karrueche, who is now 44, told WBTV that he has changed a lot since the Panthers selected him in the first round of the '97 draft out of Colorado. He noted back then he was very self-centered and immature. He talked about finding a relationship with God. I feel like I owe Chancellor, Karrueche said. I let him down as he came into this world, and the only way that I can make that right, the only way I can work out my relationship with my son, is to be there for him and to be a father and a dad to him going forward. I want to know what he's going to bring to the case that's going to make them believe that he should be given that ability. Because I don't see where that would even exist. And I know it sounds like I'm kind of being like rude and nonchalant about it, but the reality is, if you're going to request that form of request, at least have a legitimate reason as to why you're wanting that request. And I don't see it at all. Do I feel like he's trying to be genuine? Absolutely. Do I think he's genuine? Now, the flip side of it, though, is it's not my place to judge. I'm not in a position to judge anyone for what they do or don't do. But I'm going to make this kind of my closeout for the podcast and also just for general information for those who are listening. And this is me just being me. Make decisions based on what benefits you. A lot of times we find ourselves trying to please other people and satisfy others, and we get nothing out of it. I'm making that statement, and I'm also referring, like, if you listen, like the story that I just read, if you want to go back and listen to it, I have the timestamp related to it. But Raker Roof was not thinking about, he thought about himself, but he thought about himself in the wrong context. And he made decisions that weren't beneficial in the long haul. Being accountable, serving time, I'm off, all of that's fine. My problem and my cringe comes into play because you're now suddenly wanting to do the job that you should have been doing in the first place, but you weren't able to do so because you thought it was in your right interest to hire a hitman. Not justifiable. But as I stated earlier, and as I'm standing behind saying it now, I'm in no place to judge because I've done wrong. I've made mistakes. So just be smart with what you do. I think out of everything that I'm saying or that I've said, that would probably be my biggest thing. Be smart with what you do. It's not the way I want to end the podcast, but I gotta end it in some regard. But in all seriousness, like, value who you have, value what you have, because you never know when it may not be here. And this is kind of a personal part for me too. Any of my friends, and I know a lot of people may or may not listen to the shows, but I'm hoping this one somebody listens to for this part. If you've lost anyone that's close to you or that was part of why you're where you are now, don't ignore or don't think for a slight second that they're not thinking about you. As always, this is The Past signing out. I'm your host, BT. Until next week, be positive, be a blessing, never feel like you're a burden. BT signing out.